is an online journal aimed at provoking thought and opinion, with the hope to start and deepen conversations between communities and within communities, out of which we may become a better world.
I don't know what it's like being a Christian, but I would hope if I was one, I'd think of a better way of advocating it than by saying, or beginning by saying, at least it's not Al-Qaeda, guys. Come on, give us a break. Christianity, if we are going to argue at that level, I might add, Christianity has been found, or was found directly compatible with membership in the German National Socialist Party. Every fascist party in Europe could be renamed. Take out the word fascism from European history and put in the words movement of the Catholic right wing. It's the same thing. You don't have to change a word. The birthday of Adolf Hitler was celebrated in the pulpit of every German church every year, every April, until the end of his disgusting regime. You want Buddhist suicide bombers? What about the kamikaze? Hirohito, the main ally of European fascism in Asia, was not just an emperor, but a god, himself a god, and in that name and in the name of the Zen discipline of his organization, his armed forces forced people to commit suicide by flying themselves into the vessels of Americans, some of whom can still tell you what it felt like to be on the end of that wonderful, contemplative, mindless faith. So, don't get me started. Slightly affected friend of mine used to say, don't let me commence. Now, Christianity, let's take it at its own face value. Let's pretend we believe that someone was born of a virgin, was put horribly to death by Roman imperialism, then the only progressive force in the Greater Palestine area, and was then seen around again. I don't know really of any religion that doesn't feature at least one virgin birth or at least one instance of reincarnation. It's profoundly unoriginal in that respect, but let's suppose that someone did have a virgin for a mother. Suppose I'm talking to you, and you say to me, well, your arguments are okay, as far as they go, but you lose because my mother never had sex with a man. I think it sounds like a non sequitur to me. Say, well, okay, you lose because when I die, you'll see me again. I'll be walking around, others will witness it. Still, your arguments don't sound that good to me, and they wouldn't, the truth or otherwise your arguments wouldn't be proven if it were so. After all, the gospel tells us, at the time of the crucifixion itself, the graves of Jerusalem opened, and those in them filled the streets, and greeted their old friends and walked around, making it seem rather a commonplace event at that time. And that area, as is the raising of Lazarus, as is the raising of Jairus' daughter. It appears that resurrection was easier then than it's been found since. What has this to do with ethics? What is it to do with morality? I've never had anyone point it out. You could have a virgin mother, and you could have a resurrected body, and you could still be preaching the most evil things. And you could, I suppose, still also be the son of a vengeful God. But none of these things is even supposed to hang together, or has ever been alleged to do so. I'll mention a couple of things that have always struck me as somewhat discrepant. For example, what is the value of love? Another unquantifiable thing, by the way. Something even more unquantifiable than dark matter. Though we, at our peril, would say that because we can't measure or see it, it doesn't exist. Where would our lives be if we didn't believe in love? But what's the value of love if it's compulsory, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters? What if you're told you must love somebody? What if you're told you're under orders to love someone who is also a father who won't die and will never get out of your way, an authority figure, who will not quit, who will be at your funeral and your children's funeral, and you must love him. You must love him because you must also fear him. Doesn't this rather degrade the value of love as we understand it ethically or morally? I would submit that it does. What is the value of being told you must love others as much as yourself? You must, on pain of being found a wretched sinner. it's the terrible thing about it, the cultish, sinister thing, it seems to me, is that it degrades again the idea of love, and it makes an impossible demand, because you may not do it. You can treat everyone with the respect you hope you would get yourself. That's the golden rule. To love another as much as you love yourself and those you love is impossible. So you will always be found wanting. So there's a permanent cult of guilt and masochism and failure. And at the end of it is the road to hell. Something so cruel and so horrible that not even the Old Testament mentions it. The punishment, eternal punishment of the dead. For that filthy totalitarian idea, you have to get to gentle Jesus, meek and mild. There's no one in this hall who wouldn't be happier if they threw off this disgusting apparition. Thank you.
And rebuttal. Well, Christopher Hitchens is certainly entitled to his opinions.
Thank you.
He's not entitled to his own facts. I think that what we have seen here is a real distortion of Christianity. For example, Christianity is not based on compulsion. All you have to do is read the story of the Garden of Eden. The basic idea is that you join voluntarily. In that sense, freedom is at the heart of Christianity. Not all religions, but Christianity. Second, I think that it is a nonsensical reading of the New Testament to imply that Christ ever said, "I'll be coming back in 3 days, guys. You're going to be seeing me again, and that's why I'm God." No such argument ever comes out of Christ's mouth or is stated in the New Testament. In fact, I would argue that simply coming back from the dead, let's say that Stan Oakes or Christopher Hitchens were to die tomorrow. I go to their funeral, and a week later I see him again. Christopher! Do I conclude? I might conclude something strange is going on, but I'm not going to start worshiping Christopher. I'm not going to say, "Christopher, you must be God." I would just assume that something very odd happened here. So what I'm getting at here is, in the name of reason, we're seeing an effort to read an ancient text that if you read any other text that way, your teacher would give you a D on the exam. At least we should read fairly what Christianity aspires to say. We can disagree with it, but to caricature it and say it's a religion of involuntary acceptance and that Christ was making claims he never made. Now look, I want to make one other point about all this. The Japanese kamikaze bombers were not doing this out of Buddhism. According to Christopher, the emperor was a god. Buddhism posits a god. Therefore, the emperor must have been a Buddhist god. Sorry to correct you, but Buddhism does not posit a god. And the emperor was claiming divinity in a very different sense than Buddhism ever alleges. And the motives of the kamikaze bombers were not religious, just as the motives of the Tamil tigers in Sri Lanka are not religious. There have been lots of suicide bombers through history motivated by other factors. And so what we're getting here is an effort to apply a Procrustean bed in which everybody's diverse motives. The Hindus and Muslims are fighting over Kashmir, but no, they must be really fighting over religion. The Israelis and Palestinians are fighting over land, but let's blame it on their gods all the same. What I'm guessing here is a historical distortion, an effort to put it all on the blame of religion, and that, I think, is not just a distortion of religion, it's a distortion of history.
It's available at fine bookstores everywhere, but I think there are some copies here tonight. I'll show you the chapter I have on the book, great book, Zen at War, which describes the relationship between Zen Buddhism and Japanese emperor and god worship and imperialism and the hell that begins when the sleep of reason brings forth monsters of that kind.